Pure, do you read me? Do you copy?
Hello, hello. I hear you loud and clear. I hear you loud and clear. I am here. I am there. I'm everywhere. I'm here.
It is incredible to see your wonderful face, as always, always evolving face. Um, Amazing to connect with you in these times, weird ass times, I like to call them,
Yeah.
effed up times, I like to call them. What are you calling these times?
I call them the upside down times, the in between times, the pendulum swings the other way times. It's fucking strange. It's strange, but yeah, it is what it is, and here we are, in the midst of it all, being able to connect and have this conversation, which is great.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that I've definitely noticed in these in between times, pendulum swinging the other way times, is the opportunities to connect on a different level. Perhaps
Mhm.
the the impendingness of everything and making it feel like, all right, we need to talk. We're not wasting any more time. We need to talk. And so here we are,
Yeah.
having conversation amongst the gods.
Mhm.
Um, so I feel like it's an important time to talk about joy. I would love to know, because of course we know this is there's endless difficulties right now, and
Yeah.
we're good. Well, I'm sure difficulties will come up in our catch up, but I'd love to know what has been bringing you joy in this last, and let's just say in the last few days, what's brought you joy?
In the last few days, I think actually being on holiday has been really amazing. Like just being able to sleep, to wake up really late and open my eyes and go, I've got fuck all to do. So shut your eyes and go back to bed, you know, and just being still, like being still and appreciating just being in my space. Like I've been really enjoying that. I've been really enjoying that. And especially because it's, festive season's just gone by, and usually it's the most busiest time of the year, and feeling everything slow down where it should be quite frantic has been doing wonders for my state of mind and and my well-being actually. So stillness has been the one for me.
I
Yeah,
hear that.
yeah.
I feel the same actually. Normally, every year when it comes around to this time, I'm like, we're here already. Why are we acting so frantic? Like we've never had a festive season before. Like years go by really quickly. Uh, can we maybe skip it a year? So I was surprised that everyone was like, we have to make sure that nothing gets in the way of this season.
Mm,
I was like, skip it, it's fine.
yeah,
But actually, having an excuse to do nothing, yeah, absolutely agreed. Or to just really wind down things as much as possible, to not
yeah,
communicate with people. Because
yeah.
how have you been finding communication? Because um, definitely feel like it's been an important part where we're kind of like this, we're disconnected in many ways from people at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, how are
I
you
mean,
communicating with people?
it's been actually, I've been more in contact now with, my inner circle people than ever actually before. Like we're doing a lot of check-ins, a lot of group um, check-ins via WhatsApp video calls, and lots of, I think because we're collectively kind of going through similar, feeling this similar weight, that we are, if one person in our group kind of feels out of balance, then it kind of would feel as though it's a general imbalance. So we check in with each other a lot, like a lot of video calls, a lot of texts, a lot of back and forth, like sharing of information. Oh, this new form of meditation I've just discovered, or like, somewhere or another of like benefiting oneself, that we share it in our group. So it's been a really interesting time where, like, I've also noticed that the way I communicate has become a lot more open, and a lot more honest. It's like, if I'm not doing okay, I will dissect it and I'll let you know, and I'll present it in a way that is not, without any frills, without any whatever. Here it is, super bare. I'm fucking doing terrible today, friend. And I will cry during this voice note, or this, this text or this video call that we're having, because that's how I'm feeling. And it's honoring my emotions. So a lot of that in my communication has been coming through, like just being really honest about how I'm doing.
That's really beautiful and absolutely something that I can also say that I've been both feeling and practicing. Even when it comes down to emailing, actually, noticing that I don't have as much time to. I'm not apologizing for how I'm feeling about things in emails. You know what I mean? In a way,
Hey.
in the past, like this is the thing. I'm not going to spend too much. I'm not really going to actually even explain why I'm not going to take you up on this offer. Uh,
Yeah,
I'm just going to
yeah,
say, can't do it. Ain't got time. Thanks. Goodbye.
yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
exactly.
freeing up. Well, I guess like not chasing the not being able to be on the capitalist wheel in the same way, I guess, because at least the industry that I work in is in many ways shut down or shifting, has meant a different sort of focus. A lot of that has really meant that we can focus on care more than we have in the past, and I enjoy that so much that care
Mhm.
is really brought to the forefront of all activities, and health and well-being, and people being depressed is so important, or just I just
Yeah,
love that now that is a thing.
that's
I
great.
mean,
And that's really the core of it. That's the place that we should be operating from constantly.
yeah, not just when we're in the middle of a pandemic, when actually it's maybe already
Yeah,
a little bit too late for many people for us to kind of go like, oh, wait a minute,
yeah,
people feel things, people are
yeah,
tired, people are
yeah,
hurting.
exactly, exactly. Care of
But
our own.
humanity, they get there in the end.
Yeah, it seems like we seem to baby step through a lot of things, and bless us, we eventually do get it right. So I guess it's a matter of patience.
So, um, this leads me to thinking on a little bit about thriving. I've mentioned it previously to another um, god god mate of mine, um, about the fact that for some people during this period, because of the change in pace, it's allowed them to thrive in
Mm,
in ways, um, and maybe not in all areas, but there's certain things that they suddenly, perhaps because of various movements that have gained more media attention,
mm,
finding that marginalized voices are being, in
mm,
some ways, platformed in ways they weren't previously, which is, on the
mm,
one hand, very exciting for some people, getting to
mm,
speak up and out more than they previously would have done on platforms that were
mm.
before not accessible to them. I wonder
Right.
if you've had any experience like that recently that you can speak of.
Yeah, definitely. The one really prominent thing that kind of jumps out at me when you speak of that is, at the beginning of lockdown, I saw it as an opportunity to, because I'm a single mom, so like finding time to create a space to be creative, because that's, in the past, it was easy to just kind of be creative whenever it came to me much easier. I don't know how this works, but after having a child, like, it was so much more important to create the space to be able to be creative, to be able to dig within and let it kind of effortlessly flow out. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, I'm going to get more time to do things. This is amazing. I can play around with some music and da 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 da. And in the beginning, it was very much like that. I like things slowed down a little bit. I was working like 4 hours. I still had my job, but I worked half of the hours that I usually work. But I still had to homeschool, which I didn't prepare for, which was such a challenge. Oh my God. But also just such a beautiful process to have gone through as a mother. Um, and seeing my child as a student, what a fucking mind fuck. But yeah, that beginning point was very creative, but then I hit a slump and I got super depressed, and a lot of this kind of old trauma was coming up for me because I was being more with self, more than usual, and there wasn't all of this kind of distraction and external noise to help me suppress these things. And so, with the gender-based violence, femicide stuff that has been and is still and is looking like is going to become even worse in my country, it triggered a lot of that in me because I've experienced a lot of these traumas in my life, which I had never dealt with before. So I was going to these like social distancing marches, and really being in the forefront and screaming and crying and just shouting my lungs out. And then I'd come back home and I'd be like, the stuff that I'm expressing out there is stuff that does exist in me that I have been carrying for a very long time. And my brain has done a really good job at like suppressing, it put it in a little tiny box and went, that's life for now. Just put that away because you need to cope with just being and, just existing. So that little box was unraveled. And all of a sudden, I was remembering the most like crazy, like minute memories that I'd completely forgotten, almost insignificant memories of those things. And then I realized I have to go to therapy. That, there's no, like, I need help navigating through these emotions, these feelings, these flashbacks. Like, it was a lot. It was so much. But, I'm so grateful having, gone to those marches and kind of have, in a weird way, it erupted all of this shit that was sitting there that needed to come out, that needed to be dealt with, that needed to be processed. And that's pretty much where I am now. Yeah, busy just working through those things. But, those gender-based violence marches, those, Black Lives Matter marches, they were like a strong catalyst to just disrupting that space a little bit for all of that stuff to come up into the surface.
Were these marches happening across South Africa? Were they mainly focused in Cape Town or?
They were across South Africa. I mean, it's a huge problem in all cities. So they had one in all three major cities: Cape Town, Durban, and Joburg.
We that seemed to be a particularly a South African protest, the gender-based one. I remember hearing about them. We didn't
Yeah,
have we could have them here, but we didn't have them over here. It was Black Lives Matter. Was the protest that got people out into the street
mm,
over here.
mm,
Um, once or twice, at least in the city of Brighton where I reside. And I think maybe there was one or two, or maybe might have been a few more in London.
yeah.
Actually, there was what has happened, and it's something that I know, I believe started in South Africa already, way before the pandemic, was the tearing down of statues,
Oh yeah.
um, which seems to have really great gained traction.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I mean it's quite insane when you think about what those statues actually represent and how, over, our democracy is quite young actually, and to think, I mean, in my head, that would be the first thing to do, right? Is to take those motherfuckers down and and reclaim what is rightfully ours. But these statues are still fucking standing tall in so many spaces around the country, and it's such a reminder, and it's such a a deep ancestral reminder of how, like, you know the oppression that was is still very, very rife and strong, whether it be in our circles in society, or mentally, that, we've created those prisons within ourselves as well, where, we're able to live with these statues around us, regardless of what monumental and strong significance they carry. Um, and so for me, those things need to go. They need to go. They don't, there's no space for them anymore. And that's a strong symbolism as well.
It reminds me, it feels like those statues being protected is, of course, a protection of just white supremacy or protection of patriarchy in general at all costs. And it reminds me of a current situation that another godmate was telling me about, who is in Barbados,
Mm.
where a lot of European people have been holidaying during this pandemic. And they'd gone from having very, 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 very few cases to a recent explosion of cases where, because people were not, holiday makers were not following any of the guidelines. White people going to, these Caribbean islands and mixing and mingling, and when a Bayesian resident filmed some holiday makers mixing in ways that they were not supposed to be, ignoring the rules and the lockdown rules that are there to keep everybody safe. The person who filmed them to expose it was put in jail by the government in Barbados, you
No.
know? Yeah,
What?
yeah. And that, it serves as a reminder. I mean, these things have always been the case, but
God.
this, like what this pandemic is doing in all ways, is just really, really exposing injustice.
Mm,
It's exposing so much, actually. I mean, but injustice definitely is one of them, and the just injustice in the direction of, black and brown people, queer people,
mm,
disabled people.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, it's also, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of these queer activists in Cape Town, called, what are they called again? Oh God, my brain. It'll come to me just now. But basically, they took over a house in Camps Bay. Camps Bay, quite
mhm.
fancy, liney, super rich part of Cape Town, that seems to be, can't be infiltrated. So during lockdown, a lot of people were evicted from their homes, and the Western Cape government, um, somehow, in I don't know how, in their fucking minds, and they can actually sleep at night, they issued out a lot of evictions in informal settlements where people had built homes illegally. But this is during like the most windiest, coldest, like wettest, like seasons we've like ever experienced. And people are being chucked out in the cold, in the wet, without anything, and the cops are just there like bashing down their homes. Cool. So, City of Cape Town, do you have a plan for these people, or what is your agenda with making so many people homeless? Surely you must have a plan. There's no plan. So these queer activists decided to because we've seen there's a lot of holiday homes in Camps Bay that are just standing empty while people are being kicked out of their homes. And then you look at that, and it's just, the imbalance is so fucked up, and it's disgusting. So they occupy two homes, two very fancy, super huge homes in Camps Bay. So they first rented it out for a couple of days, and they paid as though they were on holiday, etc., etc. And then on the fourth, fifth day, they started getting messages like, "Oh, you guys haven't left the house. Do you want to extend your stay? What is the thing?" And they were like, "Boom, bitch, we're taking over the space. We're squatting. What you gonna do?" And there are a group of highly dedicated and um, super intelligent and learned humans who are fucking tired of the way that the system is built to always not cater for black people, black women, and And they made a huge statement by doing that. Like the community in Camps Bay was so shook. Like, there was so many social media outrage from the Camps Bay community saying, "Oh, these black queers, they've taken up, these two houses in Camps Bay. What is this? What is our town coming to? The typical like, white, I feel so unsafe, blah blah blah, bullshit." But eventually, obviously, the law always wins. They went to court and they got kicked out. But for them, it was more just a demonstration, like you can't you can't expect people to do nothing. You can't expect, for us to feel as though, we have our freedom when there is no fucking freedom. The oppression still continues, and it just has a different face, and a slightly different agenda, but it still fucking exists.
Preach. Absolutely. When
Yeah.
so d- what's my follow-on comment from this is where as we wrap up actually
Oh
where I know time is doing a number on us today. I know sometimes I swear time is racist. Uh, um, so actually, where do we feel like we're heading? It's hard to know, isn't it, right now, isn't it? On the one hand, it can be like it's a real optimistic time in some levels because like things are being expressed, people are
Mm,
protesting, and it's getting into national media.
mm.
Do we feel like it's an optimistic time? Is it a pessimistic time? Are we back to just being weird ass upside down time?
Pendulum swinging time. Fuck. It's just, I have a mixture of those things every day, kind of. It's like one day, I'm feeling quite optimistic, and, there's certain kind of like information that's coming to me, and it seems, there's a shift that genuinely feels energetically this, it's happening. But, it's obviously, I think it is that weird time now where shit is trying to figure itself out. Like we are at that point now where it's like a purge. We're like mid purge. So shit's gonna feel uncomfortable. Shit's gonna feel a little bit off balance. Shit's gonna feel empowering. Shit's gonna, it's a push and pull. It's a give and take, and it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing now. It's just doing that. But this is so necessary. This process is important, and to give it space to breathe is also like key.
Mm. I'm here for
Um,
it. I'm here for
Uh,
this
Me
changing time,
me
right?
too. It's the hard thing, but we are doing the work. Like it's the hard thing to do, but I'm also here for it. I'm so here for it because ultimately it's beneficial for our own internal growth, and also collectively as people, um, as living and existing entities. Like, yeah, I'm glad that I've lived to be in this shit. Yeah.
Same. Definitely. I've said it before about this time of existence. I'm glad to witness it. It's the weirdest of times.
Mm.
But I've always been into weird. So like,
Uh,
bring on the weird. I
yeah.
and may their weirdness, um, like the perhaps our acceptance of weirdness, of queerness, of things being
Mm,
different and unusual, and hearing of other narratives that we haven't heard from before. I hope
mm,
that is
mm.
something it's really instilled into culture as something that weirdness becomes normal,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
understood to be normal, so that we can use that and change things within society, so
Mm,
that they better suit people who have always been. I guess ostracized for the sake of them not fitting in.
mm,
So yeah,
mm.
here's to some change.
Yeah.
Do you have any last before we go? Any wishes or anything that you'd like to make?
Mm. I would like to just give all of the I want to just give blessings to you and to all of the brown queer folk of Brownton Abbey and our extended community. That 2020 and beyond brings us healing, brings us expansion and growth, and that we should always remember to breathe deeply into our heart space and just fucking glow and take up space and just grab what is rightfully ours, and that we may align ourselves with all of these gifts that are made for us, just for us.
Our ancestors right now are like putting
Yeah.
those gifts right in front of you, like, "Hey, I got you this gift. When are you going to open it? It's time to open them."
Yeah, I gotta hold my hair back though. Shit, gifting my wig off. But just blessings and love, endless love, so much of it.
Thank you so much, Pura. It's an absolute blessing to witness you, to feel your vibes through these pixels. I really feel you, and I'm
Yeah,
grateful for the time that we got to spend together today. Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you for holding space for us. And just forever reaching out to me and loving me and seeing me and holding me, even though you're so far away.
It was meant to be. One day we'll share with viewers in the future how we came to meet and the serendipity and that made sure that, or basically our ancestors going, you two,
Yeah.
you're meant to know each other, and I'm going to make a formal
Yeah.
introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so thank you, ancestors, for that.
Give thanks. Give thanks.
Yeah. All right.
I love you immensely.
I love you too. Thank you, and I'll see you.
Mwah.
Mwah. See you in another ether somewhere.
Definitely. Definitely.
Goodbye for
Love
now.
you. Love
Love you
you.
too. Cyrus Marcus,
Hello.
Witch of the West, are you there?
Hello, I am here. It is great to see you, Lord Brownton.
Cyrus Marcus, Witch of the West, it's an absolute honor to share this call with you. We're just having a catch up. This is Gods in Lockdown, from one god to another, finding out how it is for you in your part of the earth, for you and other people that you know. So let's just start in there with the check-in. How have you been these last few days?
It has been wild and wonderful. Of course, being a witch in these parts is, it's the winter time. It's the time of the deep solstice. It's the time when the night gets longer in the area that I'm in. So it's a time for us to celebrate and dance and play. So that is what has been happening. It has been a very relaxed time, a very chill time, and I'm just starting to gear up and get ready for a whole other year of magic.
Beautiful. Um, what sort of playing have you been doing?
I have been, well, I went for a walk on the clouds. That was quite beautiful. I haven't done that in a while. So I actually walked along the edge of the clouds that are by the mountain where I live. And that was lovely. I also baked cookies with a couple of small witches, which was very lovely. And I also created a new element for the periodic table because I thought that we needed one for 2021.
We definitely need a new element for 2021. What does this new element do? Any particular properties? I'd like to know.
Well, it glows in daylight and it changes color in the darkness. And it is an element that is liquid or solid or gas, depending on what the user needs at the time. So it's very self-directed. It's a very it's communally affected and a self-directed element.
This is just the right time for this kind of element. What do you think are going to be some practical uses of it?
Well, I'm hoping that, of course, all of us gods in lockdown have been watching the humans with their revolutions. We've been watching them really try to take back the earth from the capitalists and from the white supremacists. And, certainly as a witch in these parts, I've been trying to support their movements and support their organizing. So I made this element to be useful for them in the fight. So they could turn it into gas if they need to disappear quickly. They could turn it into liquid if they need fluid, and they could also turn it into a solid if they need to use it to get out of a jam. So it was directly created for the humans to help them to overthrow the violence in their world so that they could live a more peaceful, more free life. Of course, the life that we all get to live as gods in lockdown. I'm so thankful that we get to live in the clouds and we get to live a little bit above some of the human ugliness. But I definitely want to help them to get where they need to go so that they can be free like we are.
That time up in the clouds has definitely been something that I've appreciated when we're able to be up there together, connecting on as gods are wont to do, and um, I I definitely recognize the privilege, I think, of being able to of that. I think it's important for gods to acknowledge the privileges that we have, um, and also I feel for me at this time, what um, I feel called to do is to um, remind the humans who've forgotten that they are also gods walking on earth, of their of their ancestry that connects them to the stars.
I love that. And I hope that I remember going to this, I came to Earth to go to a Brownton party in a place on Earth that they call London, I think. And while I was there, I saw the humans remembering that they were gods while they were dancing and while they were beatboxing and while they were sitting together and while they were dressing up. They remembered for a moment that they were gods. And I was like, oh, if only they could remember this all the time. So I'm hopeful that they will get that in 2021.
That is a beautiful wish for the people of Earth over in 2021. Which corner of the Earth are you in right now?
I'm actually in. I've chosen to sort of stay in the area above Turtle Island. So I'm in right now in the part of Turtle Island that's called Takaranto, that is the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. It's beautiful territory. I'm very thankful to be here and to have a chance to get to be on these lands. So this is a territory where the trees stand in the water. That is where the word for Takaranto comes from, and it is a beautiful, beautiful place. It's also sometimes called North America or Toronto, and it's a place where there's a lake. It's a place where there is a city that the humans have built, and there is a place where there's lots of natural resources all around the outskirts that the humans use to grow their food and to spend time with each other. And it's a great place. I'm really thankful to be here.
It sounds like an absolutely it sounds like heaven on earth.
It
Um,
is.
and has it been during this lockdown? I understand that there was an international lockdown, pretty much. How has this heaven on earth been uh, for the people?
Well, it's so interesting. I've been living, here in Takaranto, trying to blend in, trying to help them during this year. And what we've seen is, of course, what we would expect in a world that is gripped with white supremacy. We saw a virus that came through and that affected people in different ways based on their experience of race and their experience of class. So that's what we saw in Takaranto, was that a lot of the human gods who looked like me. A lot of the black folks were the ones who were and indigenous folks were the most affected by the virus. So we saw a lot of people die who didn't need to die. If the things had gone a bit differently with the government, we saw a lot of A lot of terrible things happened because of this virus, but we also saw people come together. So we saw this rallying cry of humans saying, "We take care of each other." And they proclaimed it. They said, "We're going to stay home. We're going to stay in our homes in lockdown in order to make sure that everybody survives this." And that was like an act of disability justice that was so beautiful. I couldn't believe the humans were doing it. It was so incredible. And then, they stayed home and they took care of each other. And then they realized that we take care of each other also meant that they were responsible for each other, not the state and these government officials that they had elected. So that was really fascinating to watch them come to that conclusion, and then to realize that they needed to get rid of some of the things that weren't working for so many people in their community, like policing and the prison system and the court system. And so we saw them talking about, we take care of each other in this way that meant that they were going to take care of each other rather than relying on the state to resolve their conflict, crisis, and harm. That was amazing for me. I mean, I've been watching the humans for 4 millennia. I've been watching them for literally 4,000 years, and I didn't think that they would remember that they had once lived before this time of policing in prisons, but it seems that they've come to that realization that those things aren't working for them anymore. So that was fascinating. And then, of course, we saw a lot of, perpetual violence by the police that fueled the movement for defunding them and abolishing them. And, we saw some beautiful activism in the streets, people marching, people also doing organizing from home, sick and disabled people. It was really beautiful. So I'm very thankful of all the years to have spent on Earth. I'm thankful that this year I got to spend it in Toronto.
2020 was quite the year. What are we feeling like? Have you been able to use any of your um, I've forgotten the word. Sometimes the English language
Yeah.
fails me. I think it fails for many people actually. But your prophecy for 2021. Is there anything that you see maybe coming up in this next cycle of the sun?
Well, I actually have this special divining device here that sends me messages through the mycelial network that is underground, that the mushrooms that sort of connect all of the earth. So I brought my divining tool with me to this conversation because I was so hopeful that we would get to talk a little bit about the food that I love to do. And what I can see written in the cells of this plant is a prediction that 2021 is the year that the humans will finally be brave enough to get freer than they've ever been before. They're just going to want it so badly that they're going to get rid of the things that are no longer serving them. So I've talked to the mushrooms, I talked to the mycelium last night. I asked them, if they could let me know what was happening. The mycelium network is just underneath the soil. It connects all living things on this planet. And they said, yeah, this year is the year. This is the year that everything changes for the better for all living things on this planet. We know that once they get rid of white supremacy and colonial violence, the whole planet is going to improve. The plants will be better. The waters will run clear. The animals will get to live long, full lives. Everything will be better, not just for the humans. So that's my prediction for 2021, is that they're about to become freer than they've ever been before. And I can't wait to be there. I think that when we look to as they start to realize that capitalism isn't working, as they start to realize, that all of these old ways are ways that are better left in another century. They're about to become so much freer. So yeah, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to get the intergalactic pass to stay on Earth for all of 2021, so that I can try to be here and help whisper into the plants and communicate with the humans in the ways that I can to ensure that they actually get to their glorious free space. But I may not be able to. I've already been on Earth for a year. I mean, the intergalactic passes are only supposed to be time limited. Of course, otherwise all the gods would always be on Earth. So I'm hopeful that I'll get to stay here to watch this. But either way, if I'm watching from the clouds or if I'm watching from the soil, this is the year that they do it. This is the year that they topple over the old governments. This is the year that they get rid of policing. This is the year that they finally take care of each other in the most beautiful ways.
I really hope I also get to witness that. You know what? I've totally have not done my paperwork to make sure that I've extended my what did you call it again? I can't even remember what we
Oh,
called it.
yeah, those intergalactic forums. I mean, who remembers the names of all of them? T79.2. I haven't put that form in yet, so I'm hoping to get to that. But yeah, these forms.
Do you have any advice actually for any human beings or actually any creature that is managed to intercept this call? What as getting free seems to be the energy that is coming through that is coming through. What advice might you give to any being in order to make that happen?
I would say, the first thing I would say is, um, to all of the plants and all of the animals, the four-footers, the winged animals, the swimmers, uh, hang on. I know that you're facing extinction in all of these ways, but if you can just hang on, if you can just somehow survive this next year, it is about to get so much better. We are going to take care of you in ways that we haven't before and that we're sorry for. So that if the animals and the plants can just hang on a little bit longer, we are going to try to turn this around and make sure that they get to survive. For the humans, one of the things about humanity that is so beautiful is the capacity for generosity, the capacity for sharing, the capacity for collective work. And I think that, this year might seem a bit scary because when you try new things, especially when the state is telling you that it won't work, it can seem a bit scary. But to just be now is the time to be brave, to be brave for every living thing on this planet. Survive, its survival depends on your bravery right now. So now is the time to just be bold and brave. And lastly, to the beings on Venus, we of course had the humans finally discover the traces of life's residue on Venus in 2020. And of course, we've known that there's been life on Venus for millennia, but the humans have just figured it out. And so for the beings on Venus, I know, you've been trying to stay undetected for a while because you know what humans do when they try to find a new place to live. They often take over and expand. But I want you to know that we are going to do our best to make sure that the humans don't do that to Venus, and that if you're feeling courageous, we'd love for you to show yourself more to humans. It might actually help them to realize that there is something bigger than themselves going on and that they need to be part of this universe, the way that the rest of us are. So, to the beings on Venus, just maybe this is a year to be brave as well. But yes, I think to everyone who is watching, who is intercepting this, even to the interstellar travelers who are picking this up on the long range sensors, just know that big things are happening in this quadrant of the universe. This is a wonderful time to be alive and to be part of this solar system. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that we're finally here. We're about to be a witness to a complete revolution of an entire planet. And 2021 is going to be magical.
It's about time, isn't it? It's definitely about time. A little bit overdue, but you know, you know, time is a bit of a made up concept anyway. So perhaps it's the perfect time. Um, Speaking of time, already this brings us to the end, unfortunately, of our conversation. At least this one, anyway. I look forward to chatting with you again in the future, in the past, in the present. I look forward to conversing with you across time and across millennia. And I'm grateful that we got to meet at this particular juncture. Is that a
Thank you
word?
so much. Yeah, thank you so much for the chance to meet you in 2021. Next time when we meet, I'd love to meet you in 1977. I have something to show you back there that I think you're really going to like. But, oh, and I was in 2062, and you won't believe what is happening over there. So the next time we see you, maybe we'll meet in a different dimension.
I know a really nice spot in 2062, actually, just by,
Oh,
by, by the ocean.
Oh, amazing.
Got
I love it.
great views. Okay, well, I can't wait to see you then. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. Uh, always boundless love from this corner of the earth to your corner of the earth that you currently reside in, to Cyrus, Witch of the West. Thank you so much. Goodbye for now. Tuning in. We are now tuning in. The Uhuruverse. Are you out there? Are you out there, the Uhuruverse?
I am all the way out there. I am all the way out there.
It's absolutely wonderful to connect with you again via this. Is it old technology? Is it new technology? Depends what timeline you're in. But via Zoom, we are able to connect again, and I'm grateful to be able to see your face assembled as a bunch of pixels. And what a face I'm looking at today. Um, this tell me all about this incredible jewelry in your face.
Well, this jewelry comes from a UK artist, Interim, Inaurem, on social media. And they make all these metal face pieces. They have more than what I have. And I'm very thankful for them because they're a really good friend, an artist friend. And they actually wanted to help me make sure that I got this face jewelry to affirm my gender since I'm a trans being. So they helped me to find jewelry of face pieces that help define me. I've already had facial piercings that help define my gender, and then these metal pieces give me structure that I feel like I don't have. And I've been doing that because my gender therapist told me, you should seek to use facial jewelry to express your gender, since you struggle to do so in your clothing, because clothing is very ableist. And other ways that we affirm gender, it can often be ableist. So jewelry is something that everyone can access.
Beautiful, and I'm absolutely just enthralled looking, seeing your face accentuated in this way. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Um, so, how have you been? Which tell me first of all, actually, what corner of the earth are you in right now?
I'm in the southern hemisphere of North America. I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana. Um, and I'm in the Ninth Ward. So that's where I am, right by the water, the bywater of New Orleans, near the Mississippi River.
By the Mississippi River, and tell me, how has it been down by the Mississippi River the last few days?
It's been really sunny, which is surprising because we are in the middle of winter time, which I'm thankful for. And this is supposed to be the coldest month, but we've been having a lot of sun. We haven't had too much rain yet. It's usually very rainy here. It's a very humid and a very wet place, but we haven't had too much rain. So it's been very beautiful. It's been very beautiful.
It's the things like the weather and the weather that we can kind of go out in is a real blessing at this time. It makes me think about how during this lockdown or pandemic that we are connecting with nature in a different way. I'd love to know if you have been able to connect with nature more than usual in the last year.
You know what? I have been actually, unfortunately, able to connect with nature less in the last year than I've ever been able to, just because sometimes it can be very hard to access nature if you have a mobility disability. And so I've been in my wheelchair the last year. And so it's very hard for me to get to certain places. Even in my backyard, I have a deck that was built for me so I can go from my house to the deck and leave, but I can't necessarily go into the yard yet. We're actually working on that. They're working on building a ramp and a pathway for me to have a garden with raised beds. So this year I'll be able to garden, and this year I'll be able to garden and I'll be able to go into my yard. And as far as going to like parks and stuff, because I know you guys have really beautiful parks in the UK, but we don't really have beautiful parks in the USA. It's usually a very small space with a bench and it's overcrowded. And either way, I don't have a mobility vehicle yet. That's something I'm working at too. And I'm using art to get acquire my mobility needs. But once I get the vehicle and I get the ramp and my raised garden beds, then I'll be back in touch with nature. But I've been accessing nature through my dog right now.
Ah, who's your dog? Tell me about your dog.
I have a husky. His name is Hustler Houdini, Reverend Churches, BJ, the BJ Moore. So he has basically we have this thing where we like add names to him anytime we want, and he really uses all pronouns, but we just throw names at them every time they do something. So I live near a Church's Chicken, which is a fast food restaurant, and he loves living near the churches because people always litter like drumsticks or like chicken wings. So on his walk, he's always hunting out churches. So we call him the Reverend of Church's Chicken on St. Claude.
Beautiful.
And we call him Houdini because Huskies are master escape artists. So he's always disappearing and like we have to go look for him. Like, where did Houdini go? So Hustler, Houdini, Reverend Churches, BJ Moore, you know.
Have you found out Have you found Church's Chicken, Houdini, etc., etc., in any surprising places of late?
He's been staying at home lately, but he has this thing where he keeps getting in my mom's bed without her consent. So if he finds that she left the door open, she'll come back and he's like laid up watching TV, you know, and she's like, get out of my bed, what are you doing? So he definitely loves to be on raised beds and he loves to talk. He's a talking dog, so he really can hold conversation and communicate very well.
My fingers are crossed that he might come and join us on this call at some point. We'll see. We'll see.
He might join us.
That's definitely seems to be one of the highlights of conversations like this, is when an animal friend comes up on the screen and puts their little paws up.
Mm-hmm.
So fingers crossed for some of that time. So nature, what are you looking forward to growing in your raised beds?
I'm going to grow all the foods that I find essential to my diet and that are native to New Orleans. So I want to grow some okra because that's a native plant to the South, and that's a vegetable that Black people have long since eaten. I want to have the essentials like for me, I'm a Black Indigenous person, so I want to have like beans and potatoes and corn. A friend of mine gave me, an Indigenous friend of mine, La Loba Loca Shares, gave me some Black maize to grow. We're gonna grow blueberries. We're gonna have one garden bed for vegetables, one garden bed for herbs, and one garden bed for fruit. And within that, we want to have everything so we can try to avoid having to grocery shop as much as possible and be able to go straight to the backyard for our essentials. So growing things that are kind of like protein or meat-based diets like mushrooms, eggplants, and potatoes, which are kind of filling, and then greens, like we have already some chard in the back and mustard, and then we want to bring in the beans because that's another protein you can live off of, garlic, onions, peppers, etc. So we're just trying to our goal is to be able to not have to go to the grocery store, because it's kind of hard to go to the grocery store in the pandemic, and it's really not safe with COVID-19.
It isn't safe. I think that might be how a relative of mine recently got COVID, just by being in the grocery store, because I haven't been anywhere else, so I don't know how else they might have caught it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my uncle passed away from contracting the virus at the grocery store, and he was a very safe person, but he did have to go and buy groceries. So it is a goal to, not knowing how long we'll be in this pandemic, to be able to have sustainable food in our backyard.
Firstly, sincere condolences to hear for your uncle.
Thank you.
This um, effort to find a way of breaking free of grocery stores is something that is not only going to be hugely beneficial for human beings to take control over again. It's yeah, all different kinds of ways of that being a bit healthy for people, but also healthier for the planet. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I look forward to hearing more about your raised beds and your garden, and seeing you taking back control over the food that you get to consume. Just I think for a long time something that has been denied to marginalized people, whether that is um, for Black or Indigenous people, for disabled people. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to share something. It's very personal to me, and it's very, but I don't mind transparency. And just on that conversation, as I've been getting my diagnoses and treatments and testing, one of the things that came up was actually that they were like, we know that you have a history of being an unsheltered person, and we're seeing a malnutrition coming up in your blood results, that you're lacking a lot of essential nutrients in your blood. So I definitely agree with you 100% that it is a product of systematic racism towards Black and Indigenous people, as well as just the notion that we're eating the food of colonizers. We're, detached from what our people and our lineage have eaten to survive and to stay healthy. So I'm trying to decolonize and reconnect back to that, as well as I'm constantly promoting to everyone to get a blood test, check your nutrient levels during this pandemic, take vitamins and supplements, as well as herbs and natural remedies to protect yourself against this time, during this time.
this reminds me, thank you for that beautiful advice. And it reminds me about, I feel like for many people, not for all people, for many people, there's been a reminder that we exist inside bodies. I think for many people that's being very clear because they're aware how the state treats them inside their body. But for many people, they kind of are able to forget that they're inside a body that can be
Mhm.
when it was regularly oppressed.
I'm the
Um,
king of disassociation. I'm usually out very far away from my body. So it's been this year has been a year, the past year has been a year of grounding. In 2021, I'm looking forward to really being in my body and learning how to be a human. Because we're gods in quarantine. I'm trying to learn how to be a human in a body.
it's uncomfortable, right? Isn't it? Being a human in a body.
It really is. It really is.
It
I'm
can
like,
definitely be easier sometimes uploading into the avatar state
oh,
and existing in that heavenly plane, but you know
absolutely.
it's not necessarily always sustainable, and also I guess maybe means that we sometimes are also cut off from people who don't have the access to you know to be in that space,
Mhm.
and
That's
sometimes we
real.
just can't ourselves. Sometimes the physical body absolutely drags you back in and is like, no.
Yep.
So
Yep. You get snatched back.
Um, so I would love to know. We actually don't have much time on this call at all, Time is really just like whizzing by. So I feel like I would love to hear from you about moments of joy that you have managed to find that maybe you've been able to snatch during
Yes.
this pandemic, if there are any.
I have had moments of joy. So, moments of joy, love. um, I firstly I would say day to day, what brings me joy, something very small, is crushed ice. I love crushed ice. I got me a ninja blender and I make it, and I have that private moment to myself where I'm having my crushed ice and I feel at peace, in complete peace with everything for those 5 minutes of my crushed ice cup. So that's one like small thing that gives me joy. Some other things that have brought me joy are, one, just the notion of still managing to adapt and create art in the midst of what's been going on. So I've developed a love for painting, I've been painting self-portraits from when I would perform. I've been painting those moments as well as other times. And that's been really inspirational to a lot of people. I also have still managed to do online events, transitioning into the online realm. I produced a show called Black Widow, where I was able to throw a Halloween show for Black sex workers to perform and do various things, various like horror based pro sex themed skits. And that was amazing. It was just amazing for us to adapt to being safe, you know, bringing in like dual COVID testing, masks, a private setup for recording, and still getting that out to the people online, and just witnessing other people manage to do the same. All these punks and trans and queer people managing to adapt and move into creating still and creating and holding space and events online, and share spaces where we can share art. That's been very joyous for me. And also I have the joy of living with my mom. That's not something that a lot of people have the privilege to experience. A lot of people live separately from their mother, and me and my mom decided to move together during the pandemic to support one another, as well as she's my caretaker, and she helps me out in so many ways, but I get to witness her living and just be a part of her life in an intimate way. That is a gift, really. You know, a lot of people only get to live with their mother when they're children, you know.
Well, I'm so grateful to your mother for caring for you, and for you for caring for your mother. That's, you know, it means that we get to have more of the Uhuruverse in our lives, which is only a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Um, we're already at our time. It's already been.
It's so great. I want to definitely thank you for having me. I want to thank you, everyone in Scotland and the UK, for, you know, considering me over here in the US. And I want to thank Ali for interpreting. I really appreciate that, because, you know, we want to make sure it's accessible for all.
Absolutely. Do you have any wishes for 2021 before we go?
I do. I'm wishing to have all of my mobility needs met, all of the mobility aids that I need to have equal access to living just like able-bodied people do. So that's one big wish. And the other big wish is that I want to own my home that I'm living in, so I can have this be an art house and a safe space for Black, queer, and trans people who are artists. So if anyone wants to support those efforts, you can go to patreon.com/Uhuru Dreamhouse, UHURU Dreamhouse. And that's where you'll find that you can donate monthly and patron the art um, of me trying to buy this home and become a Black trans homeowner, as well as if you go to my Bandcamp, which is the Uhuruverse.com, the Uhuruverse.bandcamp.com, then you will find all of my albums for sale. And I'm selling my albums, specifically the Black Pessimism album, to fundraise for my mobility vehicle, as well as an electric wheelchair. So those are my wishes. Once I get my full access and I own my home, then I feel like I can be even more of a gift to the world, even more of a guide. I'll be the full embodiment of Master Satanas.
That home ownership is absolutely it's something that really changes things for people, I believe. I don't own my own home, but those of you who are out there who do own your own home and maybe have some sort of comfortable resources, I absolutely recommend that you go and check out the Uhuruverse's Bandcamp and their Patreon, and drop some coin in there, because I know for sure whatever they create, it's going to be a blessing for anybody who gets to touch that. So let's I would like to hope that we can use this channel for the potential for making that dream come true, because it
Thank
should
you
absolutely be a
so much.
reality.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I'm thankful for everyone who helps to support or donate to my art, because I know you could be doing anything with it, but I definitely always put it to a good cause.
Thank you so much. We know you will too. Thank you so much for being on this call, for staying alive
Yeah,
with us, for staying on this earth with us, and I look forward to connecting with you again, either in the fleshy world, or perhaps in this digital space. Either way, I feel you, and I really appreciate you.
I
Thank
look
you.
forward to it too, Tarik, and you look beautiful. I meant to say that.
Thank you. And you too. All right. We're done for now. We'll see you in another cosmic plane.
Bye. Adios.
Goodbye.